What's going on, people? What's going on? Welcome to this week in Caribbean Tech. My name is Ingrid Riley. I'm founder of Silicon Caribbean. Over on the other side of the screen is who that?
I am Daniel Smith, founder and CEO of Keepingly.
He forgot he was CEO as well.
Yeah, you know, when you're saying founder, then you have to add another title, you know, it's just like, oh boy. But anyway.
In other words, a head cook and bottle washer. But anyway, people,
exactly.
I'm really hoping that you had a good summer. We're now we took our summer break, and I know that some of y'all are back in the back to school vibe. Daniel, I know you have a daughter. I have a pet plant, so I cannot relate to all of this. How are you handling back to school in the 305?
You know, we're what, 3 weeks in, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm starting to feel, yeah, here we go again. But you know, it's good. Like I look outside and I see it's raining today, so it's not like Miami's sun, but it's, you know, it's the rain today. But you know, school is in full swing.
Yes,
indeed. Kind of thing, you know, just like, yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I feel it in the traffic. Going to the gym in the mornings, and if I happen to be on the road by 5:30, that's at a good old long lines and a long wait. They're back. Yeah, and I was like, okay, okay. Anyway, speaking about some stuff, it's almost a weekend, and it seems as if London Bridge is falling down. Meaning, we read this morning that the medical people are concerned about the health of Queen Elizabeth, who is 96. And so I just saw something on Twitter a while ago, like a 5-minute thing about what's the process when Queen dies, right? And when she passes, then they will send out a thing called London Bridge is down. I watched it about all the things that actually happened, and the billions of dollars that is spent and everything. And so I was watching people's response to it, because I was like, interesting. Because we all know that right now Europe is feeling a lot of pain from inflation, a lot of pain from recession, a lot of pain from Putin and Russia turning off their supply of oil, and Brexit, which turned off the supply of talent. And so, yeah, they're in a bit of a pain right now. They just got a new female prime minister, who had this some people call the female version of Boris Johnson, who just left because she's pro-Johnsonite and pro-Brexit. But yeah, so it's interesting that her death may trigger spending by the government that may possibly help to ease. It all depends on whose pockets it goes into, right? It's interesting that her death may actually help to ease some pain. A woman who has been in power since 1952. But we won't get into the whole politics of colonization and.
But since you brought it up, and it wasn't in our schedule to talk about it, but since you brought it up, one of the things that I was looking at this week with the announcement of the new prime minister, it was like, do people in Britain now feel like Brexit was a bad idea? Or are they still going into the rabbit hole of, hey, Brexit was a good thing for us? Because I personally never thought Brexit was a good thing for them, but hey, you're seeing all the pain, and what you didn't mention, even in your your little piece, is that the price of energy, what the government has done in 2 days is talk about giving relief to households up to a certain amount, because they don't want the energy prices to skyrocket, and that's where they're feeling a lot of the pain of the inflation, energy prices. So the question, is like, was Brexit really a good idea? I'm looking at some of this week, and I'm like,
Yeah, it was the idea maybe for the top tier, because they wanted to secure their power and their influence. It's going to be interesting, but this is not about the Queen. This is This Week in Caribbean Tech. where we basically bring to you the top breaking, most interesting news in Caribbean tech and business, and also what's happening around the world. So we move from basically chit-chatting about the Queen, whose queendom plundered and pillaged a lot from Black people for God knows how long, to the news, to the good news that what's the start of good news?
One statement, okay, ma'am. I'm just saying, man.
Yeah, in good news, Kapor Capital launches a new Black-led $126 million venture fund. Now, this venture vehicle is meant to back early stage founders of color and also social impact ventures. It is their largest fund to date, and it's actually one of the few Black-led 9-figure funds in the world. And it's led by two co-managing partners, Ulili Unovakpuri. She's Black. I'm sorry, Ulili, if I mess with your name. I'll practice for the next time. And Brian Dixon, well, I actually follow him and his wife on IG. They're both in the same sort of a tech venture space. So they said that Kapor Capital, what their focus is, they're going to be focusing on companies that are building products and services that disproportionately affects low-income communities and communities of color. Now, already in their portfolio, they've had companies like Kayaba Care, which is a maternity support platform, Daylight, a digital banking platform designed for the LGBTQ community, and Tomo Credit, which is a credit card for people looking to build and secure their credit. So this is kind of good news, given the fact, and I think on our last podcast, Daniel, had mentioned this, that during the whole, on the heels of Black Lives Matter movement, Black entrepreneurs were the new fetish. And so they recorded record amounts of venture capital funding for second quarter last year, $866 million, according to Crunchbase. But in the second quarter of the year, right? So they're doing fine, but in the second quarter of this year, Black founded companies raised just $324 million. In other words, a 63% drop. So the fetish of Black entrepreneurs seem to have fell off the white tables. And so therefore, but not all white tables though, because Kapor Capital is actually founded by, they have white founders. And so funny enough, Ulili and Brian were both part of a, like a summer associate program to help people with no VC experience to get into the industry. And, Brian was their first intern, and Ulili was there working there as well. So it's kind of cool to have them been in the trenches for the past 10, 12 years and are now leading this large venture fund. What are your thoughts, Daniel? Because I know you're there in that zone as well.
I think it was because I saw it yesterday when the news broke, and being the largest raise, and I think that's the first time that Kapor is actually doing an outside raise, because all the money was the family money before.
Yeah.
That was its validation. It joined the likes of Harlem Capital, Marlon, and those guys over where they are, and so it gives I think it's like a third or fourth Black-led, but you have a few others in terms of looking at this size fundraise. And it is interesting. I say ultimately I was hanging out with some entrepreneurs earlier this week at a dinner event and realized that for a lot of us founders of color, Black, Latinx founders, the stories are eerily similar around some things in terms of this whole fundraising cycle. So to see this happen, it gives, I think that it gives more hope to Black founders and minority founders in terms of what they're building. But I would also posit some caution in terms of ultimately that all VCs want to see some type of traction in terms of of what they're investing in. So that's always going to be the tricky part, considering the fact that we're in a very interesting dynamic of a climate. So it's good on the one hand, I would say, and it always is relevant to see what are the requirements, what are they asking for, are they looking for, because I'd love to understand what the impact operations are about, or if it's largely revenue based and stuff like that. So those are the things I think there's still questions, my personal questions, but I think that it all goes well in terms of what it says for the ecosystem and the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, and the 126 million is pretty much like just half of what Anderson Horowitz gave to Mr. WeWork. I mean, he got one startup about $350 million US. But we won't with it. It just is what it is.
And the one startup got more money than all the Black founders in Q2 put together.
There you go. That is just really it. But again, it's good news because it's definitely a step in the right direction. And it seems as if they're managing expectations. They're definitely going to be investing for that 10x, 20x thing that typical VCs go for. But there's also they're going to be putting money in social impact ventures. Yep. So they're definitely managing. So whilst they seek to cream, to take off the cream of the crop, they're also, focused on planting additional seeds in the ecosystem. So kudos to Ulili and Brian. Much success to you. I always ask, right? Like, I hear they're focused on colors of founder and everything, and I understand where the American culture and financial and especially their relationship to money and wealth is in America. But if somebody from the Caribbean say hi and they have a good, idea, cut them a check too, yeah? Don't forget your brothers and sisters from the West Indies. Just saying. But anyway,
that leads to the second story. So I think that
it does. You found it, so go on through with it.
So a Caribbean-led asset management company is set to become the first Black-owned contact lens manufacturer in the world. And it's the story of acquisition comes as Black Pearl Global Investment enters the Caribbean with its first regional business launched in Jamaica, having a focus on reducing health disparities across the Caribbean. And Jamaica was a natural fit because one of the co-founders is Dr. Carl Smart, was born and raised in Jamaica. And they're establishing their Caribbean office in Jamaica was deeply personal for them, and it acts as an anchor to all of their activities throughout the region. So I think that for me was, I saw it because I saw the story released, I think was yesterday. I think I saw parts of it last week, but I didn't realize that there was a Caribbean angle to it. So when I noticed, I was like, man, that's really cool. And it does give us, a lot more in terms of this whole financial ecosystem and building our companies, because, you always hear, hey, the Caribbean markets are too small. Yep. Well, these stories help to, distill some of that notion.
Absolutely. Every time I hear people that the Caribbean market is too small, it says we have minted many billionaires, right? Mm-hmm. In the telecom sector, in the food and beverage sector, in the hotel sector. And so of the supposedly small market. And of course, the remittance sector has minted billionaires. So people have to just look at the Caribbean differently, that it's an important market to have because of its connection and its influence on other global markets as well, because of the diaspora and because of that relationship between the diaspora, and also because a lot of people want to be Jamaican, be Caribbean, be Trini. And so that culture, products and services go abroad as well. So you have to look at things differently versus just simply the usual demographic numbers and its GDP. You have to look at things a little bit more creatively. And
Marshall sell out Madison Square Garden Monday night, so
Yeah, Marshall Montano been in the soca music business for 40 years since he was 7 years old, and he sold out Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? So come on now, let's not allow people to tell us that we're too small or too this. We are massive value, and we matter in this global digital economy, right? So again, you can't come to a more pro-Caribbean podcast, just to say, right?
No.
Yes. Well, we have a little bit of bad news, but it's also actually good news. Well, Bolt Mobility, which is a personal transportation company that had Usain Bolt as a co-founder and pretty much more of a hype man, really. They've pretty much gone out of business. And so they've left a whole bunch of like hundreds of scooters and e-bikes on the roads for cleanup. I wish I was there because I like scooters and I've helped them with the cleanup. But, you know, so it's now defunct. And, but what it does for me is that it's fine. It's an L for Usain. He's a man who's used to winning and all that, but it's something that we had said before in previous podcasts that we're happy to see our Caribbean Jamaican athletes. Oh, news just came in. Queen Elizabeth has died.
Wow.
It just popped up on my on my thing there. So may she rest in peace. But there are some people who are on IG right now who are popping champagne because their hashtag is like ding dong, the bitch is dead. So whichever side you take, a human being has passed and left the earth. May her soul rest in peace. All right, we'll continue with the show. So Bolt, we're happy to see that Bolt is actually making investments and learning about investing in different kinds of startups, technology startups. So we see this as a great learning experience for him and hope that whatever he learned from that, he will take that and then move into other areas with better foresight and with better understanding of different kinds of businesses. What is your own take on this?
So I know we were one of the people had that conversation even on this podcast, you know, about athletes and entertainers doing more. So I think that, you know, it is one of those cycles. But again, I don't know that. Yeah, like you said, I don't know it's all bad. But what I would say is that what I didn't like about this personally is that it is more tech adjacent rather than tech. And, you know, we try to make everything into a tech company.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, I don't know how much understanding Usain had of this market or,
right.
You know, what he was getting into in terms of, you know, those scooters, you go downtown, you know, certain cities and they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
You travel in some cities and you realize that they're all lining the block and nobody's using them.
Yeah.
Or you go in some cities and everybody's zooming around on them. So it really depends on the market, the demographic, etc.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think it was mostly because of the pandemic, though, because they were on a merry clip in terms of growth.
Right.
And I think the 2 years of the pandemic really, really kind of took the air out of them. Yeah, took the air out of them for bigly. So yeah, but we wish, you know, the founders, I mean, he's not exactly hurting for cash, so he's good. And neither is Usain. We look forward to more news that Usain Bolt is investing in more businesses and, you know, and especially in the tech field or things that are simply feel right for him in the digital space, you know? So yeah. All right, so on to the next one. Jamaican Edtech company one-on-one educational services went IPO on the Jamaican Junior Stock Exchange to raise 385 million Jamaican dollars, which is pretty much like, call it 2.5 million US dollars. Now, the company is a provider of online study courses to a Caribbean market, and it was founded 9 years ago by entrepreneur Ricardo Allen. So what they want to do with this money is to scale its business through acquisition of complementary businesses and products and services. So for them, they want to invest in what they call next generation learning content, as well as machine learning and AI tools in order to personalize these courses and make them more attractive for users on their platform. All I can say is good luck, Ricardo. I'm really glad that this is a good story where you stick with it, because as they say, it really takes between 7 to 10 years for a startup to find its product market fit and its sweet spot and to actually gain traction and grow. So whoever it is that funded you, mentored you, fueled you, kudos to them, and for you and your team, that you stuck with it and you went IPO to raise this cash. So good luck to Ricardo. What are your thoughts about this? Because this is a second EdTech startup. The first one was Edifocal, that have an oversubscription when he went IPO earlier this year as well. So yeah, your thoughts?
So clearly the money is in Jamaica because everybody.
What do you mean? Enough money there.
Clearly the money there because
enough money there.
In the international market, most tech IPOs have slowed down. Nobody is really IPOing because everybody is like, hey, we don't want to go IPO and then, basically crash the value of a startup or organization. But in Jamaica, this is like the second one. We just post-pandemic, so enough things are going. But I'm happy to see it though. It does help, fuel the whole ecosystem, and it helps fuel the stories around Caribbean tech companies doing well. The amount, I would say, it's in the US, that's what startups raise here. So I mean, but it's a different market. So I would say it is, significant for them. And, like you said, good luck to them. I'd love to see what data looks like in terms of, how many users, what they're doing, and what their growth plans around the Caribbean is. And I'm sure somewhere it's in their prospectus. So it would be good to start digging into some stuff like that, because I think ultimately it helps. I think, what I'm realizing even around this whole conversation about startup.
What is that? Is that yours or mine? What is that? Ta-ding!
Oh, that may be me. Somebody trying to get me or something.
Okay, all right. Turn that off. Stop disturbing us. We're recording. Anyway, give us another few. Yes.
But what I was saying is that ultimately I think that it is it helps build a investing culture though, helping people to understand once you see these things starting to happen. So now you start having way more investors, both of the angel and also people on the stock market. Yeah. So I think it is also helps to fuel that story. So loving to see the build up and the momentum in the ecosystem.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Whatever success stories are needed in our region. And so it's good to see them. And so, as I said, kudos, we're looking forward to seeing more. I'd love to see some female-led businesses go IPO on a Jamaica Junior Stock Exchange. Hey, if you know me, you would know this wouldn't pass me for me to actually say this, right? So I'm looking
I know the ones you're looking at already. So let's keep them under wraps until Ingrid reveals who they are.
Correct. I'm trying to get some women, not just in going IPO on a Jamaican Junior Stock Exchange, but getting more funded. In different ways, from angels, from private equity firms, from venture firms. So more to come over the next few weeks and months for sure. Exciting times. We got to go where the money is. We got to go where the opportunity is, because
money is in Jamaica. We know that.
Money there, for sure. Money there for sure. And so so looking forward to seeing what opportunities are being exploited, where money is coming from, and how we can get more money to all kinds of Caribbean startups, equally both for the dude-led startups as well as for the women-led startups. But yeah, okay, cool. So we're gonna get into your area now, sir. Telco. Now, we kind of merged two stories into one. One that opened up and saying, Caribbean consumers are starting to feel a pinch of roaming charges on their mobile phones. At the same time,
starting to. Okay.
What's that?
I think you're trying to be politically correct. Starting to.
Well, yeah, we've been feeling the pinch of roaming telecom charges, and of course, at the same time, the infrastructure has not been upgraded for years. We're still rolling with the 4G because that's what's dominant across the region, and 5G seems to be very, very far off. I mean, you found this story. What intrigues you about all of this?
So number one, I think that the conversation of the data roaming, the roaming charges, both data and voice, is something that CARICOM, who is supposed to be the watchdog, of what happens around the region, needs to take a closer look at. And needs to get into this with some teeth, because we effectively have a duopoly in the region in terms of either CWC or Digicel.
Yeah.
And both of them sit, you know,
this is what do we call them again?
who's that?
TWC, Cable and Wireless.
Cable and Wireless, yeah.
Cable and Wireless and Digicel, yes.
And so there are duopolies in the Caribbean. Basically, if you're with one and, you know, CWC doesn't have a mobile license in Trinidad, they do have a license around, you know, home and stuff. So, you know, there are countries where you go to, CWC won't operate, and then, you know, Digicel operates more widely across the region. And so customers have to jump and pay tons of fees roaming through the region. But why isn't there a regional body that basically sets tariff on how those things occur? Because ultimately within the region, and I think it just comes to the same thing around regional transportation, where we look at LIAT. I think that regulation in our region is really lax, and the customers are the ones who basically end up feeling the hit.
Yeah.
And so what they would tell you is that here's what we need this cost to cover our charges, which goes into the second story, basically, because it's kind of two in one, we rolled it into one. But the second part of it is rolling out of 5G. And I don't know any telecom in the region, because we have all seen, you know, Digicel comments about wanting, you know, the Facebooks of this world to pay for certain things in the region, and, you know, giving money to them in terms of as content creators, etc. The fact is that the infrastructural cost to put in 5G now, I don't know any telecom in the Caribbean wants to do it. While the talk of 5G is great,
yeah,
it's a massive cost investment, and so unless they're getting you know, that investment from some of their partners, the Nokias of this world, who are creating the towers, etc., they're not going to really invest in that, because it's hundreds of millions of dollars that require. So, you know, this article basically said, hey, possibly in the next 5 to 10 years is when 5G will be rolled out. Versus in some first world countries, we already have 5G that is rolled out in many parts of the world. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. But again, it may come down to government intervention again, kind of pushing these telecoms to either make some kind of investment, maybe on the home broadband side in 5G, because it can be done there, you know, and you know, reduce the likelihood. But towers, you know, all those kinds of infrastructural costs, or, you know, even changing some of the antennas on top of those things, they're going to cost. But which telecom is going to invest that, and what is the return on investment in that kind of infrastructural cost, is really where we stand at the moment. And what I think is that the customers are the ones who are disenfranchised at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, you know, and of course, we talked about just a while ago that the Caribbean has made, you know, many billionaires, and the owners of these telecoms are definitely a few of the billionaires that this Caribbean market has made. And, you know, when we look at mobile penetration across the region, pretty much every Caribbean country has over 90% mobile penetration, right? Give them that. Some of the infrastructure needs to be improved. You know, things changed out, absolutely. But you're right. Are they going to be willing to spend this new money already in a very mature market? And or, you know, does this technology upgrade from 4G to 5G worth that investment? Or are we waiting for another kind of a leapfrog type of you know, technology that will make that investment worthwhile? But we'll see. I mean, I'd just be happy that they get into areas within each Caribbean country that they're just simply not in, because again, they tend to be more centered around like cities, like the capital cities. They need to go out and go deeper with their investments into the non-traditional areas as well. But yeah, but as I said, the mobile penetration, or the number of people who have mobile phones, 1 or 2, is over 90% for most of Caribbean countries. So let's see what happens.
But the reason why most people have 2 mobiles is because they want the interconnectivity costs even are even high. So, you know, why I need a Digicel or I need a Flow phone because ultimately, or CWC Flow brand, you know, because I need to be able to reach people on the both networks, and one network, it's easier to make calls from Flow to Flow or Digicel to Digicel. So I just have two phones. So obviously something, you know, in the woods has to change for you know, more ability for the consumers to win. And I think that the customers are the ones who ultimately lose in this. But also, the question really is how are governments coming in to regulate and to protect the people and to make sure that there is investment in the technology. I think that that is the bigger question that we have to look at. And I don't know who's pushing CARICOM or even, you know, some of those subcommittees around, you know, technology, etc. But I think it's really important that, you know, citizens start making a push towards having more dialogue, because without that, you know, most of our leaders are of a certain age, and yeah, it impacts them because they use a cell phone, but how much of their lives are really predicated on the technology? So it does require some deeper analysis, I think, as
and if we're talking about, you know, building digital societies across the region, then our infrastructure has to map to that. And so, you know, yeah, there's a lot of connecting the dots and thinking around that in terms of the role of these telecom providers and how they matter into how fast we, you know, they're definitely one pillar of how fast we actually, you know, grow into becoming a digital society, you know, digital societies across the region. But yeah, anyway, so on to our final thing. We're back onto the entrepreneurship tip. This one, this guy has no issues when it comes to getting people to see his stuff, getting people to respond to his stuff, and moving them. So just yesterday, 10,000 people swarmed into a new mall restaurant. You know, malls have been in this thing that's been basically closing a lot because a lot of companies have gone either bankrupt or they've gone online, especially over the last 2.5, 3 years. But this man, MrBeast, he's been basically, he has 104 million YouTube subscribers. And he's been moving this audience by, you know, basically, he understands and exploits the YouTube algorithm. He spends a lot of money on creating these videos that tend to always go viral, where he's giving away money, giving away food, he gamifies giveaways. So it's basically entertainment. And so he's been using this subscriber base of 104 million people on YouTube alone to go into new businesses. And so what he's done, he started it, it's called MrBeast Burgers. And here's how this dude did, what this dude did. Because of the pandemic and all that, right? He just said, you know what, we're going to do ghost kitchens and delivery only. And would you believe, in a short period of time, just over this past 1.5 years or so, MrBeast burgers were being made by 1,000 ghost kitchens, 1,000 ghost kitchens locations in the US, in the UK, and Dubai, right? And did I say it's only a ghost kitchen and deliver only kind of a model where he just, you know, basically leverages the top food delivery services in each location. Now, talk about a way to build an audience, be a hell of a influencer, and spin it off into different businesses. So he went from ghost kitchens and to actually now starting to build out physical locations. So in other words, I saw Serena Williams' husband, Alexis Ohanian, who is a co-founder of Reddit, and he is also the co-founder of 3 venture funds, right? And he went to go see it himself. And he's like, yo, Burger King, beware. But yeah, what do you think about this, man? When I saw it, it blew my freaking mind.
Well, that's the way to use your influence. That's
yeah,
the
man.
way to use your platform. And those who understand how to use their platform and how to use their audience are going to be the new winners in our society. There's no way around it. And if you have the power of YouTube, IG,
TikTok,
TikTok.
Twitter, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes together, and just understanding how to use it to monetize, and also how to use the power for good. Also, it's also really, I would say, inspiring on some levels.
Yeah, I love it because again, he's just been at it. And he went into it, years ago. I mean, he's just a dude, he's not even 30 yet, right? And he just, this is what I want to do. I want to be entertaining. I want to, he figured out, oh, well, if I give away money, this gets X amount of views, and he spends money on promoting it. And I was like, I've been basically low key looking at him for the last number of years. And it's like, this Mr. Beast dude is, the classic example of doing what you love, understanding the platform, zoning on one particular platform, and deciding you're going to go all in on this platform. Builds, through videos, builds a hell of an audience that tunes into whatever you're going to drop next. And then monetizes that in the real world, in real life, in person, and of course he makes a crap ton of money from revenue from YouTube because he has 104 million subscribers. For me, this is a perfect example, the power of understanding how to build community to move the needle on commerce. For me, that is true influence. So all of you people out there who believe that you can buy bot subscribers for your vanity metrics, it cannot materialize into this. So stop it, right? So find something that is of value, whether it's entertainment value or educational value, and just go all in on it. And then be patient, because invariably you'll be able to do something like this, which is to monetize your community to make even more money. So I like ending on that fantastic entrepreneurial note.
Yes, ma'am. No crypto stories this week.
No crypto stories this week. Can you believe this? Well, I must be slacking. But anyway.
Really?
No, it's just that the market is going through a very interesting phase right now. And there's a lot of power plays in terms of the various governments and the various cryptocurrencies and who owns what. And then of course you have the big guys like the Black Rocks and the Blackstones, which has trillions of dollars, and them wanting to maintain a certain balance of stuff in there. So it's interesting to watch. It's like theater. So I try not to try and understand everything. I just look for the opportunities to exploit, like a good old entrepreneur. So, but at the same time, I also take note, as I mentioned, Alexis Ohanian earlier, that he raised a couple $100 million US to double down on investing in crypto startups. And the piece that interests me also is that he is also using that money to get more women into the crypto world, because it is pretty much like 80–90% dominant with dudes. So that's a little bit of an off the book crypto stuff that's been having my brain go, oh no, but I have to say this though. So I tested it, right? So I have some digital currencies. I say, I have never sold any. And to test that loop to see how quickly when I sell it, it gets back into my bank account. Dude, I tested it. I sold maybe like $100 US worth of my Bitcoin, right? Before it started to tank. Thank God for Jesus. But anyway, I'm still gonna go in some more if it goes in. Right. It was, and I said, send it back to, it was instant. Nice. Not even an hour, not even 24 hours, dude. I said, let me check to see. I was like, oh my God, it is in there. And the exchange rate was pretty good. I was like, what?
Nice. Wow. So now you have for life. Don't sell all your Bitcoin in one day.
Not at all. No, it was just $100 US because I just wanted to test it. I was like, let me see how quickly it gets into my account. It was super quick. It was pretty much instant. I was like, that's why it's scary for a lot of people. That's why it's scary. But anyway, on that note, during this broadcast, the news popped up that the Queen is dead.
The Queen has died.
The Queen has died. Yes. Anyway, before we wrapped up, this is the British Queen has died. Queen Elizabeth. Yes. So just before we wrap up, one event to make, to put in your calendar. Remember we said Silicon Caribbean is having an event called the Future of Caribbean E-Commerce. It's virtual. We've already gotten our first sponsor, Atlantic Commerce. We know that our favorites, Microsoft, is come on, and we'll have other sponsors, but we'll be releasing the registration page and or speakers list within the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned to that, Future of Caribbean E-Commerce virtually on October 12th, 2022. So of course, if you got news and want us to possibly interview an amazing entrepreneur, investor, or player in the Caribbean and tech digital in industry, why am I hitching so much? I think I'm
going to the ecosystem.
Ecosystem. Yes, I'm hungry. It's 1:23. Shoot us an email at news@siliconcarib.com. It doesn't guarantee they're going to get on. But we just want to have some news coming into us as well. Keep us updated in terms of what great things you are doing where you are. And we'll see how it can make our podcast and news. We love hearing from you. And thank you for the people who have been sending in their press releases and stuff as well. So yeah, so that's it. This first week in September, back to school. We're knee deep in Q3, heading into Q4. We're pretty much a little bit over 100 days from Christmas. Have you started to count down?
Jesus. You know what I realized though, as we wrap up, number one, everybody who is on vacation is now back. So everything that was on hold is now go, go, go. But then I was having a conversation yesterday and I'm like, here's what, we have basically 2.5 months to hit everything before Thanksgiving. And then everybody comes back for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then it's into Christmas, because that 2 weeks is like your lifeline. So it's between now and the mid-November, everything to happen, because intense. I've been feeling it, and I'm grateful for it, because people are saying I'm getting more yeses than nos. So I welcome the intensity, and so anyway, that's it for this week's episode of This Week in Caribbean Tech. From Silicon Caribbean, if you got something, of value, comment below, click, like the button, and be generous. Share with some friends and some colleagues. You can, of course, watch us on Silicon Caribbean TV channel on YouTube. And if you're not into the watching, then you can also do the listening on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. We're at least on 6 podcast platforms that you all use. So anyway, see you back here next week, Friday, for another episode. With me is who? Danielle. All right, and I'm Ingrid Riley. Take it easy, y'all. Bye.